Hey everyone, welcome to a guide on how to play Athena. I consider Athena to be one of the easiest mechanical supports, while still being an extremely fun and effective support to play. Unfortunately, Athena is one character I still see a lot of people struggle with, so in this video I'm going to go over her strengths and how to maximize her kit to give you the best value in fights. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's start off with her laning phase. With Athena, you always want to start her 3 first. This gives you the ability to do a 3 camp clear because of how much AoE you had. Her 3 combined with her passive and her last auto, which is a cleave auto, gives her this fast clearing capability. In lane, the way I like to level is getting my 3 into my taunt. This gives me some form of threat since Athena's main threat throughout the game is going to be her taunt. If they have a lot of pressure or they have displacement characters, say you're against a Sobek for example, it might be better for you to get your dash over your taunt second so you can get away easier. The way I think about getting the most value out of Athena is how do I maximize my taunt? In other words, how do I get the most value from it? In lane, if it seems neutralized or you have pressure, try taunting the enemy support or ADC into the wave. This will help you and your ADC maximize clear and damage value, since you can hit both at once. However, if you're losing lane, or you know for example the enemy jungler is rotating towards you, try saving your taunt for peel, rather than being aggressive with it. When it comes to playing around the map, very few do it better than Athena. Her primary engage, which is her dash taunt, is about as good of an engage as you can ask for. Her rotational capability to be anywhere on the map within 4.2 seconds is uncontested. So what's the best way to play with all of this? I personally like sticking around the mid lane, especially if I have a versatile mage such as Scylla or Cuckoo. This gives us a heavy kill threat and forces the enemy mid to sit under tower. That then gives us pressure to farm around the map, like mid harpies or even jungle camp invades. I can also make a play at the opposing solo's blue buff with my jungler, and if in the meantime say my ADC is getting ganked, then I can just ult right over there. I don't really like ulting over to solo that much because most of the time both solos are just scrapping and they're just non-committal fights. And if I ult over there, it opens up a path for the opposing team to do a Bull Fury. So this is why I like mid lane, because it allows me to walk over to solo while still maintaining my ult. Also, as a side note, don't just sit in the lane where they can see you, but try to play a corner around the lane. That way they'll step up to the tower to try to clear the wave and you can just dash right over and taunt them. Now with all this talk about taunting people, let's quickly go over Athena's leveling order. As you can guess, the first ability you should be maxing is Athena's taunt. Now start maxing this after you have a point in every skill. So at level 1, you get your 3, level 2 your taunt, and level 3 your dash. Then start maxing taunt and put a point into your ult whenever you're able to. This will increase the duration of the taunt by up to 2x its original duration, so from 1 to 2 seconds. And leveling it also lowers the cooldown by 2 extra seconds. In my opinion, her taunt gets the most leveling value out of all of her abilities. Finally, as with all my guides, I want to go over some tips and tricks with Athena. To start off with, a neat tip is to dash and hold your taunt for a second. This will psych out the enemy because they're anticipating the taunt right away and they'll end up burning beads. Now, unless you're me and you actually hit the taunt after the beads, you end up getting 2 birds with 1 taunt. This isn't something you can always do and I wouldn't suggest this in most cases. However, if you catch someone out by themselves, this is a neat trick to do. Next up is a relic tip I have with her. I would suggest getting slow curse at some point unless their team comp just demands you get other relics. The reason why I like slow curse so much on her is because Athena, despite having one of the best CC abilities in the game, sorta lacks CC. Outside of her taunt, all she really has is a 20% slow on her 3. So what I like to do is use my slow curse on them when they beats the taunt. This way, even though I'm burning beads, I'm still able to CC them for a pretty long duration afterwards. Of course, this logic also applies with her 3, but it doesn't last nearly as long and you can stack the slows too. One thing I would do is to use your ult as a reset tool. Especially if you just got done with a fight and you're weak but your team still wants to aggress. Your ult will let you back to base to heal, get items, whatever you may need, while still allowing you to push with your team because you can just ult back in. This next one's another build tip. Because Athena is dashing into multiple targets, to make her tankier, one thing I like to do is stack damage mitigation. I either go into Spirit Robe or own a Hunter's Garb at some point. This will make you considerably tankier and give you more survivability when engaging. One cool thing too is it stacks with your ult since your ult has 30% damage mitigation built into it. So once you're channeling it, you're considerably tankier. To add on to the last point, making yourself a big target isn't a bad thing, especially if you're engaging. Since you're the first person the enemy team will see, they'll want to hit you. So looking for that dash taunt then ulting instantly to a teammate will let you mitigate a ton of damage while still being a big target so your team has an easier time going in. I think a lot of people don't realize just how tanky they are while channeling Athena ult. 30% damage mitigation on top of what you're building is a ton. So even though it roots you in place for almost 4 seconds, don't be afraid to channel it on the front lines in the middle of combat. A cool trick you can do is if you have any invis character on your team, say Loki or Alquang, or one of those characters, you can Athena ult them without giving away their position. So you can essentially ult onto the enemy for a huge amount of burst damage because they won't even know it's coming. My next tip more applies to playing Smite as a whole, but especially with Athena you want to always be paying attention to your map. If you've played RTS games then you're no stranger to this. but it's a good habit to get into because it will allow you to get off quicker and better timed Athena ults. I know this one might seem like a basic tip, but one thing I see a lot of players do is putting down their 3 then taunting. Although this is fine to do in the early stages of the game for more damage, in most cases you're just giving them an extra second to get away. Plus that extra damage mid to late game won't really matter a ton, so it's best to just dash in there and let it rip, then follow up with your 3 afterwards. Another small tip is to make sure you fill up your dash's passive. This additional passive, we'll call it, grants you up to 3 block stacks. Each stack will absorb an auto. This also means that that auto will not hurt you or proc any item effects such as Kins or Exi. You can easily get block stacks by dashing through enemies. Each dash will only yield you 1 stack no matter how many enemies you hit with it. So my tip is to just make sure you have it filled as much as you can, even if it means randomly dashing through jungle camps when you're not doing anything so you can fill it up. This is also why it's a good idea to dash through the wave in lane. My final tip for Athena is to auto cancel. What I mean by this is abuse your passive. After using an ability, you generate a proc of your passive called Reach. This will make your next auto enhance by enabling it to be ranged and deal more damage. So after using an ability, make sure to auto, then ability, auto. You get the idea. This will allow you to deal significantly more damage, especially if you're rocking jungle Athena. Alright everyone, well that's the end of the guide. I hope you learned a lot from this and can take away a lot of these tips to make you a better Athena player. She's not the hardest character to learn or play, but just like every character in the game, you can be more effective the better you are with her. If there's anything you personally do with Athena that I didn't cover that you would like the community to know, please comment down below. I'd love to learn about it. In any case though, take it easy and see you in the next video.